Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another a round of Scottish Gin, where we interview Scottish gin makers and business owners, distillers, and other people from the glorious world of Scottish gin. So today we are joined by Mr. Pickering from Shot Corner, Pickering's Gin, also known as Marcus. So Marcus, hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good to see you.
And you?
Yes, and you're in a very smart location there. That's a boardroom, I believe.
Yeah, this is the room above the distillery. Yeah, boardroom. Yeah, maybe a bit just general meeting room, stroke putting parcels together or whatever else seems to happen in this room. It's the spare room.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so we know a fair bit about your story, but there's always something to learn for those that don't know. Can you tell us a bit about your own background and what kick-started Pickering's Gin?
Yes. So, gosh, I was a builder. So my business partner, Matt Gammell, and I had a building company when we first started it, we were doing sort of some small renovations, anything from changing light bulbs up to putting a small extension on the back. And we slowly grew that business until we got to, sort of 10, 15 staff. And the last project we did, the last big one we did, was building a house in Perthshire. So we got it up to reasonable size. But part of that was we were asked if we would restore it's called in the building trade change of use, the old Royal Dick Vet building, which is a veterinary school for Edinburgh University. And the Dick Vet, as it's known, is at the end of the meadows in Edinburgh. And the new owners wanted to change it from a university building into a public building, into one of the biggest art centres in Europe. So we said, well, that's kind of ridiculous. And I came up here and it looked a bit like a sort of 1950s carry-on film of a hospital. It was just, and I just couldn't see how you could ever turn that into an arts venue with sort of visual arts and performing arts and galleries. But the owner said, well, we've got a budget of about 2 million. And I said, of course we can help. Not a problem. Let's see what we can do. So that's how we got involved with Summer Hall in the beginning. We were just doing the renovations. So from fire systems to emergency lights to fire doors to taking walls down and creating spaces. And as we were doing that, we were approached by a chap called Andrew Barnett, who has a reasonably well-known in Edinburgh, well-known beer called Barney's Beer. And he wanted to put his brewery here. So I thought that was a great idea, as the only two senses you don't use in the arts really are taste and smell. So let's involve a bit of taste and smell into the arts, and he could do tours and that sort of thing. So I got Barney in, and I loved it. He had mash tuns and stainless steel and copper pipes and dials and all sort of excellent stuff that I really sort of liked the look of. And kind of off the back of that, I spoke to the owners and said, well, we've got a brewery. Wouldn't it be great to have a bar and a bar restaurant, not only for the 110 residents that we have here at Summer Hall, but also for all the local residents around around the meadows and Newington, those sorts of areas. So the owners agreed, and Matt and I set about building a bar, and that's called the Royal Dick, named after William Dick, the founder. So we built the Royal Dick Bar, which was great, and Barney supplied all the beer and the beer taps. And I thought, well, we've got a brewery. Wouldn't it be great to have a distillery? So we had a disused part of the building called the Small Animal Hospital, and that hadn't been used since the early 1980s. It was completely derelict. So I thought this would be a great space to turn into a distillery. So I spoke and we're talking back now in 2011, 2012. So there really weren't any gin producers that were there certainly weren't any craft or any small gin producers. So, I guess the best one or the closest fit would be something like Karoon Gin, and even they were a bit big for this sort of environment that Summer Hall had become, which was a real arts centre. And anybody that I spoke to wanted to really turn it into a visitor centre or a sort of museum or something like that of gin, but not actually produce gin on site. And all the time, Matt and I had been making. I probably shouldn't say this to in case anyone from HMRC are watching, but we are talking years ago, and the duty had been paid. But I was redistilling Tesco Valley vodka at home and getting it up to about 90%, then adding fruit to it and that sort of thing, and making sort of fruit liqueurs and adding juniper berries, and we were doing it on a little mini still about this size at home, duty paid, and that was great. So we're sort of messing around with it, and I said, this distilling thing is brilliant. You know, it's good fun. And so we thought, well, perhaps we would build the distillery ourselves. And the way we looked at it is that we would have a sort of a stable door, and we would fling the top of the stable door open on a Friday afternoon and sell 10, 15 bottles of gin. And the rest of the time we would go around our normal day job. And then in late 2012, my father passed away, and he had a best friend at university, a chap called Gopal, who was an Indian. And Gopal phoned me. I remember very happy childhood memories of going round to Gopal's house to play with his kids, and we had a great time when I was very young. And so Gopal phoned me up and said, sorry to hear about your dad. I hear you're interested in gin. Your dad and I always thought about messing around with this old gin recipe I have. Would you like it? So I said, that'd be great, Gopal. And I wasn't really in the frame of mind to think any more about it. But then in the post turned up this wonderful piece of paper, folded in 4. And I remember sitting in my office as I opened the envelope, the smell of the old paper was really amazing. And I opened it up, and it was dated the 17th of July, 1947. And it was written down in a place called Mount Mary in the Bangra Hills in Bombay.
Wow.
And it was a fantastic gin recipe. So I sort of had the recipe, and we had the space, and I just said, right, mate, are we going to build this distillery? And Matt was just on the phone and just said, yeah, let's just start next week. And we literally started over the Christmas holidays of 2012. And we were just messing around with this recipe. And I guess the only way to describe the original batches of gin that we made from the original recipe was, it was sort of a gin delou. It was like a curry in a glass. pretty brutal. So we knew we had to tone some of the flavors down, but we kept all the flavors in there. It's just we changed them a bit to a slightly more modern palate, I guess. So we did that. And it was great. And as we built the distillery, still having our full-time jobs and that sort of thing, the press got hold of it and called us the first exclusive gin distillery in Edinburgh for over 150 years. So at that point, the phone started ringing, and there obviously wasn't this huge gin market that there is now. And so the orders started flooding in, and before we knew it, we had to start employing people. And I remember poor Dave Quinnell, our general manager now, I remember saying to him, you won't be in this cupboard forever. One day you're going to have a big office and staff and a telephone. And while he was sitting in a cupboard, which is now our botanical store, but he sat there with a blow heater on and a laptop on his feet and a mobile phone, just literally taking orders on Excel, So
Brilliant.
Yeah, and it grew, and we've expanded the distillery 4 times, and we now have a big warehouse out at Lone Head, which is about 15 minutes from here, and that's where we do the lion's share of all our storage and our pallets, but we still produce every single bottle of Pickering here at Summer Hall.
Fantastic.
And what's the process you go through, Marcus, when you're creating a new Pickering's gin expression?
Well, it's it's always changed. We don't stick to any rules or any particular ways of doing things. What we tend to do is Matt's role we've sort of evolved that I've gone more onto sort of sales and marketing side of the business and export side of the business, and Matt is definitely more. He's an engineer by trade, so he's gone a lot more into the production and the producing of the gin. But Matt also has an incredible nose, so not to look at, but sound-wise. And so he has a great nose and incredible taste, and he's always been a real foodie ever since I met him. So the fact that he can pick out every botanical. I say this now, don't never test him on it, but he can pick out all the botanicals and gins, and he's very, very good. So he naturally progressed into that part. But so what we do is we might be asked to produce a gin for somebody else. So, for instance, up here behind me are Cunard gins. And so, for instance, with Cunard, what we did is we brought Cunard up to the distillery, into this room, actually. And Matt has distilled over probably 150 individual flavors, individually distilled. So he basically makes a 40%, everything's 40% alcohol, and then everything has the set amount of juniper in it, because otherwise it wouldn't be a gin. And at that point, we then add, let's say, nothing but lemon myrtle, or nothing but, I don't know, grass from the Himalayas, or whatever it might be. But we have all these individual distillates. So then we can get people in, and they can come in here with 150 flavors, and we can just talk them through what they like. So, so for the Three Queens gin, for instance, for Cunard, they definitely wanted a Mediterranean flavored one for Queen Victoria, because that goes around the Mediterranean. They wanted an Asian one because the Queen Elizabeth goes around Asia. And they wanted a sort of America's flavored one because of the Queen Mary II, which is transatlantic. So that was a really good place to start. So we knew that we could go spices, and then what we get is I don't think we have any here, but we get sort of pipettes, and we basically just get the base spirit, and then we add pipettes of all the flavors that they like. And you can just get a little tasting glass, and then you can taste it. No, completely wrong. Throw it away. Start again, and then Matt can guide people in the direction, often in the direction he wants them to go in, but he can often direct them into a flavor profile that they're looking for. And then he knows there were 3 drops of that one, 4 drops of that one, 5 drops of that one, and he can put that all together and create a recipe. He can then go and get the raw ingredients, and in a genuinely in a mini still he has on his desk, he can actually do a distillation of those flavors as a whole, and then tweak it from there to try and get back to the flavors that they first wanted, or they first tasted. So it's quite a long-winded process, but it's really good. So there is never the same gin in 2 bottles of Pickering. So no matter what, a lot of people ask the question, do we ever do white labeling? Do we ever have one batch of gin that we just put in different bottles with different labels for different customers? We've never done that. So every bottle of gin we produce has been designed and made here at the distillery, that we then bottle here, and that recipe is unique to that bottle of gin.
Fantastic. No, that was really insightful. I've never heard it, the trialing of recipes described in that way, quite that way. So brilliant. And obviously on the website, and we see it a lot, you're described as the botanical engineers. Can you just tell us how that kind of came about?
Well, I guess, it's just a bit of a marketing thing, really. But the thing is that we making things is what we love, and is both of our backgrounds. So Matt is an engineer by trade. He's got a degree in engineering, mechanical engineering. I don't have any degrees in anything particularly, but the idea of it is that we create things. We like to make things. We're very hands-on, from our crazy inventions to making new gins. It's all a form of engineering. So hence the botanical engineers, I guess.
Yeah. And you touched on that there. Sorry, I'm talking over you. You touched on the crazy inventions there. We love covering some of those fantastic bits and bobs you've invented over the years, and I know that's kind of your area. It tends to be your area.
Yeah.
What are some of the craziest things that you've made there?
Oh well, you see, I don't think they're crazy, but other people tend to think they're crazy. I don't know. We've made the marvelously mixed musical martini maker, and now we have the marvelously mixed musical martini maker Mark II, which is if you ever watch a bartender making a martini, it's a lovely process, and the stirring down of the martini so that the ice not only melts a little into your martini, but it also cools it right down, etc., etc. You know, if you go to the bar and order 10 martinis, it's going to take a while, whereas this machine can solve that problem by making 10 martinis at a time whilst at 78 RPM whilst playing you Louis Armstrong. So, so yeah, the marvelously mixed musical martini, and that was actually the first Mark I was designed for a cocktail bar in the Pickering's gin bar, in Beijing, and it would wheel around and make martinis at people's tables for them, which is how that one started. So everything normally has a reason.
Yeah.
It's just taking a different look at it. So that was one of them. The other one, which is less of a gadget, I guess, but it is one of my favourites, is the top. Hang on, I didn't name it. I don't do the naming. That's the marketing.
Yeah.
The tip-top tippling trunk, which it's an old suitcase I've had for years. It's late 1800s leather suitcase, and well, the brief behind it was that when I first went to do a sales trip to America, you tend to walk into a liquor store or into a bar, and these poor guys, they are inundated with people coming in trying to sell them products every day. And some of these liquor stores have 2,500 different products on the shelves. They're not like UK liquor stores. Some of them are enormous. And so you would go in and you've got a very premium product in your hand, and you walk in and you say, hello, I'd like to sell you this bottle of gin. It's from a distillery you've never heard of, sometimes in a city you've never heard of, sometimes in a country you've never heard of. Yeah, believe it or not, just outside of New York.
Oh.
So, you know, and it's a premium product and I want you to taste it. And so that it was very, very difficult to even get them past that point.
Mm-hmm.
Then they did say, yes, okay, well, let's taste it, come out the back. You would then go to the back of the liquor store, and it would tend to be a table with crumbs on it and tomato ketchup, and it's where the staff eat their lunch. And you're desperately trying to premiumize your product in a storeroom at the back of the store, and it's just horrific. And the same in a bar. You know, if you go into a bar, if it's nice and quiet, then yes, you got to do it at the bar or at a table. But again, there was no theatre, so I wanted to make it an experience for the bartender or for the store owner that was an experience that they wouldn't forget. So you just want to be remarkable. You want people to remark about what you do. So I got this leather suitcase, and the first thing I did is I cut the back out and I put wheels in. And then at the other end, I put an extendable handle so that I could pull it around with me. And then when you open the lid, lights come on to shine on the top of the thing, the top of the lid. And then you have a fold down section with all your tasting cups in it. And then you have the 3 bottles of gin that all sit at a nice angle. And then you unfold the legs, and the legs extend so it then stands at sort of waist height with the lid open. It's all red felt with the Pickering's logo lit up with lights underneath. And then, of course, like everything, it plays music. So, and it's a pretty looking thing. And then everywhere we sold gin, we put a sticker on the outside of the trunk. So I'm sure I can send you a photograph of it. But and suddenly what that did was you would sort of walk in as this bumbling British guy, and you'd walk in and you'd set up the case, and there was a bit of theatre to getting the legs up and then setting it up and then opening the lid and the lights come on and the music starts playing. And rather than the one of the bartenders tasting your gin, that bartender says, "Hey guys, come and look at this, it's amazing."
Yeah.
Before you know, you've got 10, 15 bartenders standing around you just going, "This is amazing, we love this thing, where can we get one?" And before you know it, you've got customers coming going, "Hey, look at this thing, isn't it cool?" And it's playing music, and then you're suddenly dishing out little tasting glasses that you've provided, so they're not looking for glasses, and it all just worked really, really well. And in over 6 states in 2 weeks, I did 230 something tastings, and I didn't have a single knockback. I had 100% success with the trunk.
Brilliant.
Wow, that was it. And it wasn't even a new suitcase; it was a refurbished suitcase. Money went
and it
in.
was a bloody ton as well. And I literally have dragged it across the desert in Arizona. I've dragged it through the London Underground, up the escalators. This poor trunk, and I have one arm much longer than the other.
I can only imagine the look on the faces of the people operating the X-ray machines at the airport when this thing came through.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah, and it's been through plenty of X-ray machines. It's been brilliant. It's heavy. That's the one. So Matt, being an engineer, the first thing is it's too heavy. It's too heavy. So of course I had to prove him wrong by actually using it. So it's now we do gin tours, and part of the gin tour is we now have a room. Because of social distancing, we couldn't have everybody in the distillery at the same time. So we have another room called the Old Workshop, which is where I used to make all of these things, and they're all on display there. So and they're all still working and functioning in there. And there's a few of them in there, different things. And there's the next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I normally work on the next invention,
Cool.
which hopefully coming for a pub on the King's Road in London.
Yeah.
So.
And you touched on it a wee bit there, Marcus. Could you tell us a bit more about what visitors to the distillery can expect with the new distillery tours that you've put together?
Yeah, so we obviously at the beginning of lockdown, we stopped all tours, we stopped everything, we stopped production, everything stopped. Now we started the tours again a few weeks ago, and that's been great, but we really had to map out a way of doing it, and we came through, there were lots and lots of ideas and lots of different ways of doing it. And would we use our fire engine that we've got that dispenses gin from thirst extinguishers and all these different ideas? But it was very difficult to get the right amount of people with the right amount of space and that sort of thing. So we reduced our tours from 16 people down to 12. And those 12 go into 2 bubbles. So they go into 2 groups of 6. Neither group ever gets to meet each other during the tour. There's 2 tour guides. One tour guide will start in the distillery, and there are peacock's feet that they have to stand on in there. So if they're in it's a minimum of 2 people. So there'll always be 2 people that can stand together. So it'll only ever be a maximum of a group of 3. So we have 3 2-meter apart areas that they stand in the distillery. So it feels very normal because everything's explained to them in advance. So they just go and stand on the peacock feet, and everything carries on as usual. The other group go into the Old Workshop, and they get to see all the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm quite keen on the behind the scenes stuff because I think a brand can get very brandy, can get very polished and very smooth and suddenly you find that your Instagram and your Facebook and your tours and everything you do are very slick, and I don't like that. I like people to see what happens. So in the Old Workshop, we've got a pin board with all the photographs that haven't been on our social media and haven't been in the press and that sort of thing. So all the stuff that we've done over the years, and it tells a bit of a story. And then in there, you get to talk about some of our brands. And it's a real theatre. There's real theatre lamps up, and you get to sit in a really cool space. I love it. Well, I built it, so I must love it. But it's a really nice part of the experience. And then we don't, because of the latest restrictions, you don't get a gin and tonic on arrival anymore. But you did get a gin and tonic on arrival. And then you did some sampling of our 3 core products, and then everybody swaps at half time. There's a quick clean down. There's a in between. So the only thing that people get to touch are the seats.
Yeah.
So the seats get a quick wipe with our world famous sanitizer, and we get through remaining stock. And we give everything a wipe down, and then they swap, and then they get the distillery tour downstairs, and the others get. So everybody gets to see everything.
Yeah.
Instead of they get a miniature gin and a bottle of tonic and some fruit to take away with them, so they can have it when they get home or back in the hotel or wherever they go. So some people have taken it straight up to the top of Arthur's seat and have drunk it up there. So that's quite cool. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, well, you're on our list to visit again soon.
Yeah, it's very different. It's a very different tour now, but I genuinely think it's better. I think it's an improved tour. Yeah, there's more to see.
And I suppose this whole period of reflection, you know, that's what it's been. It's almost provided, lockdown and beyond has provided this opportunity, hasn't it, for a lot of small businesses in particular, well, all sizes, I guess, but just to say, right, okay, how can we do things a bit differently and potentially better?
Yeah, I mean, I hear of some amazing success stories. I mean, we have a shop over opposite us, and I must admit I've not been in, but they do vegan takeaway donuts and ice creams, and the queue is out the door every single day because they've just changed the way they do everything, you know. And some of the local businesses are just, you know, there's make your own pizza where you just go in and you get the takeaway pizza kit, you take it home, you get the dough and all the ingredients, and you can just make your pizza at home. Just some really good inventive ideas that are some positives coming out of this horrific time, you know. So yeah, I think there are some positives, definitely. I think if we had our time again, I would choose not to have COVID-19, but we try the rest of it.
Yeah. And well, talking of happier times, I guess Christmas is around the corner, you could say. So you know, I kind of know this story to an extent, but can you recall the madness of the first Pickering's Gin Christmas baubles? Tell us a bit about that.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So the gin baubles, we first did them at a Christmas market here at Summerhall. So there was a big Christmas market, and we had a stall or a stand here, and we basically got these empty plastic baubles. We put some nice ribbon on them, and we filled them with gin, and we had maybe 300 of them or something. And I remember somebody saying, "You're mad. Why have you bought 300 of these things?" I was just, you know, so, but the only way we could seal up the ribbon was to use a cigarette lighter and to melt the end of the ribbon and then squeeze it together, you know, and it was really hot. And that was the only way we could melt these, the end of this little bit here.
Okay.
So that little bit on the top there. So that was the only way we could melt the baubles together. And so we were doing this, and we had a stall upstairs in what's called the dissection room at Summerhall. And somebody came running down from the stall and said, "Guys, we're running out and people are going nuts." We said, "Well, what do you mean?" They said, "One woman's just pushed somebody else out of the way because she wanted the last purple one." And we said, "What do you mean we need more?" So Matt and I were busy putting ribbons on these things and making them, and they were taking them in trays upstairs to the dissection room. And we said, "This is just going crazy. We need to do something about, you know, we need to go big with this next year." So in 2017, we made 1.2 million of these things in various colours, and they were all filled by hand, boxed by hand. We made a machine that did the hot bit, but it was crazy, and we sort of did a bit of a pre-launch or a preamble to them, saying they're coming. And then on the day of launch, we went to go onto our website to make them available to buy, and we couldn't get on our own website. It kept crashing. It was there were too many people on there. I think at one point there were over 300,000 people on our, or 300,000 devices
Yeah.
on our website at one time. And our website couldn't cope with that. It was only a little small business website. So it was crashing. And so we phoned a web designer here at Summer Hall and we said,
Help.
what can you do? And he said, I will make you a website in hours. So in 3 hours, he built us a Shopify website that could cope with the volume of calls.
Okay.
And we flipped the website onto this new website and then made the baubles available. And I remember watching Dave Quinnell's scream that the sales, even Shopify, couldn't cope with the speed that the sales were coming in. So it was moving page by page rather than sale by sale.
Right.
And they were just selling lumps. And we sold, I think, £1.2 million worth of baubles in one day. I mean, they went crazy. Wow. And then suddenly, after 83 seconds, we sold out. So we just watched all these things go through. And then, of course, the phones started going and every phone in the office started ringing.
Oh.
And we had people saying, I've been sitting at my desk all day, just hitting refresh. I went to the toilet, I came back, and you sold out.
They're gone.
Yeah, I went, and we had some sob stories of people coming over from Australia and how their grandmother was here probably for the last time ever. And I was genuinely giving away the baubles off my own tree. It was crazy. I've never known anything like it and never known anything like it since. So the following year was great and the year after was great. And we sort of sell baubles at a normal rate now. But that year one, we had Martha Stewart putting it on her Facebook, which then meant Americans went crazy about it. I got a phone call at 2:00 in the morning and my mobile rang. And it was an American lady saying, hi, can you be in Times Square for 9 p.m? And I said, what? And he said, we want to do a live feature on CNN or whatever it was about your baubles live from Times Square. I said, I'm in bed in Edinburgh. Oh, didn't realize that. Okay, do you have anyone that could represent you? I said, we don't even sell them in America. They don't exist in America. So, yeah, it was crazy times.
That's a great story. I actually didn't know that level of detail, and that is brilliant.
Bauble mania, as they called it. And then the press went crazy about it, how we shut down the internet and all these different things. We broke the internet. But it was pretty sensational when it happened. And I think we managed to cover everyone's expectations in the end, but it took weeks of recovery just to get back to a sort of normal situation. Yeah.
What a fantastic way to get the Pickering's name and brand and products out there, though.
That was the whole idea. It was kind of a forerunner for the brand, is to get people to know but nobody cared. They just wanted the baubles. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I guess for our final question, Marcus, and this is always one that I find that gin makers seem to find the toughest, is out of all your expressions, which one is your favourite?
Oh, well, I suppose it depends whether you're talking breakfast, lunch, or sort of afternoon. But it always was Pickering's Red Top. We call it Red Top. The sort of classic gin. That was always my favourite. The Pickering's 1947, which is based more on it's based more on the original recipe, or is pretty much spot on the original recipe. That's really good with all sorts of things like ginger ale and Dr. Pepper, but I actually don't like it so much with tonic water. So if we're talking gin and tonic, then it was always Pickering's Red Top Classic. But recently, I've really got quite excited about the Pickering's Scottish Botanicals. It's the one with a slight bit of tartan on the label. It's the classic gin, but with some more Scottish botanicals in it. So it's got lavender in it, it's got heather in it, it's got bog myrtle, whatever bog myrtle tastes like, and it's got some more pine in it, so it's a bit more junipery. And that is just delicious. So that's probably my favourite at the moment. Although when I make a Negroni, it's our Britannia gin, the Royal Yacht Britannia gin,
Okay.
which I love as well. But they're my three real go-tos. If I was stuck on a desert island and I had to choose one, I would probably go for the Pickering's Classic. Yeah, if I had to. But I do love the other two. I mean, I love them all, but they all have their different uses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you did well. At least you nailed one down. That was good. But no, that was great. That was really, really enjoyable. Thank you very much for taking the time out to chat with us and giving us a bit more insight into
You're welcome.
the people and the place and the backstory. It's really fascinating and really quite unique and different what you've created there.
And it's a wonderful distillery and experience to go and check out. I mean, we went 2 years ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Things have slightly changed, but no, if you get a chance, book online and go along and experience it.
Yeah. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. No, it's really worth coming to see the distillery if you can, and the tour guides are brilliant, and all the staff. I must say that all the staff here at Pickering's have just been fantastic. It's been a tough time for everybody, and they've all really done amazingly. So this is a big thank you to them as well.
Yeah,
brilliant. Okay.
Well, thanks very much for joining us today, Marcus.
You're welcome.
And pass our thanks and regards to all the team as well, and we'll catch you soon.
Thanks very much, guys.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.
That was great. Thanks very much to Marcus for joining us. That was actually, I learned so much there. I think I thought I knew a lot about, the Dick Vet in particular. I didn't know that they were renovating it.
Yeah.
I knew their background, but I didn't know that building they were actually and the story about the baubles just
brilliant. And if you do go and visit the distillery, you go in the Pickering's Gin Experience, keep an eye out for Mabel as well. That was their first labelling machine that I think they conjured together out of an old sewing machine.
And it bottled the first 100,000 bottles or something crazy like that. But definitely worth a visit next time you're in Edinburgh. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.